What if I told you the biggest obstacle in your life isn't the world, isn't your circumstances, and isn't even your so-called lack of discipline? What if the real enemy lives inside you, quiet, invisible, and clever enough to disguise itself as you? You felt it. Every time you set out to change, whether it's to finally finish that book, start that business, break an old habit, or simply live with more intention, something pulls you back. It whispers, "Not today." It insists, "You're not ready." And it reminds you, "Remember the last time you tried and failed? Why bother again?" This is the force Carl Jung spent his life studying. And today we're going to map it. Because until you learn to face this hidden power, the part of yourself you've tried to bury, you will stay stuck in the same loops, mistaking your own resistance for fate. Think about it. How many times have you promised yourself, "Tomorrow I'll change"? Maybe it's tomorrow's workout, tomorrow's journaling, tomorrow's plan to stop scrolling for hours. But tomorrow comes, and you're back where you started. Not because you don't want it, but because some deeper current keeps dragging you back to shore. You call it procrastination. You call it laziness. But what if those are just masks, illusions your psyche wears to keep you comfortable, safe, unchallenged? We live in an age where discipline is glorified, where motivation videos promise transformation in 30 days, where books tell you to just focus, just grind, just want it badly enough. And yet, look around. Most people aren't free. They're trapped in the same patterns, repeating the same cycles, with nothing but guilt to show for it. The truth: motivation isn't enough. Willpower isn't enough. Because you're not fighting laziness, you're fighting yourself. Carl Jung, one of the deepest thinkers of the 20th century, wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." What does that mean? It means the things you've buried, the fears you avoid, the shame you suppress, the insecurities you don't want to admit, are still alive. And while you pretend they don't exist, they're in the driver's seat, shaping your choices, your habits, even your so-called failures. This hidden realm of the psyche Jung called the shadow. Not evil, not bad, but unacknowledged. And until you bring it into the light, you'll keep stumbling in the dark, wondering why nothing ever changes. But here's the good news. Jung didn't just describe the shadow. He showed us how to work with it. He left us a map, a way to transform our deepest resistance into strength. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through that map, step by step. Here's the path ahead. First, we'll uncover the real problem, why you keep sabotaging yourself, and why conventional wisdom about discipline fails. Then we'll expose the shadow, the hidden psychology that makes change so hard, and why your unconscious fights against you. Finally, we'll build the solution, a practical blueprint rooted in Jung's insights for turning resistance into transformation. By the end of this journey, you'll see that your failures, your so-called laziness, and your patterns aren't evidence of weakness. They're evidence of a hidden power within you, one that, once integrated, becomes the very source of your strength. But first, I want you to pause. Take a moment. Ask yourself, what is the one thing I keep avoiding? Maybe it's the project you never finish, the difficult conversation you keep delaying, the healthier life you dream of but never commit to. Whatever it is, hold it in your mind. Because as we move forward, you'll begin to see that this thing you've avoided isn't just about action. It's about identity. The reason you resist it is because it threatens the version of yourself you've been living as. To change isn't just to do something new, it's to become someone new. And your unconscious, the shadow, doesn't like that. It wants safety. It wants the known. That's the battle you're really fighting. So let's begin. Let's pull back the curtain on this invisible war. Let's see why you've stayed stuck for so long, and how you can finally step into the life waiting on the other side of your shadow. This is the hidden war within, and it begins now. Let's be honest. You've tried before. You've set goals, written lists, made promises to yourself. You've watched motivational videos, read self-help books, maybe even followed productivity hacks. And for a while, it works. You feel the spark of possibility. You imagine the version of yourself you could become. But then, it fades. A week later, maybe even just a few days, you find yourself back where you started, scrolling, avoiding, rationalizing. And the cycle begins again. The surge of inspiration, the burst of effort, the slow return to old habits, the guilt, the self-blame, the disappointment. This cycle isn't just frustrating, it's exhausting. Because every time you fall back, you don't just lose progress, you lose trust in yourself. We call this laziness. We call it lack of discipline. But those words are lies, labels that hide the truth. If you were truly lazy, you wouldn't even care. You wouldn't feel the frustration, the guilt, the hunger to change. You wouldn't be watching this video, searching for answers. No, what you're feeling isn't laziness, it's resistance. And resistance has a purpose. It isn't random, it isn't meaningless. It's a psychological mechanism, a survival instinct that shows up every time you threaten to step into the unknown. Think about it. When you try to change, you're not just altering a habit. You're challenging the identity your unconscious has built to keep you safe. And your unconscious doesn't like that. Carl Jung had a word for this hidden resistance: the shadow. The shadow is everything within you that you've denied, suppressed, or pushed away. It holds your fears, your shame, your weaknesses, but also your unclaimed potential. It's like a container you drag behind you through life. You don't look inside it because what's there feels dangerous. It feels heavy. But here's the twist. The shadow doesn't just sit quietly. It acts. It resists. It fights to protect you from change, because change means exposing the parts of yourself you've hidden. So when you procrastinate, when you self-sabotage, when you find yourself mysteriously too tired to do the very thing you swore you wanted, that isn't laziness. It's your shadow whispering, stay where it's safe. Don't take the risk. Don't face rejection, failure, or exposure. Let's go deeper. Every self-sabotaging behavior you've ever had is a bargain. Your unconscious trades short-term safety for long-term growth. Procrastination, it shields you from the pain of failure. Avoidance, it keeps you from the discomfort of judgment. Overthinking, it buys time so you don't have to act and risk being wrong. On the surface, these behaviors feel like enemies, but underneath, they're trying to protect you, even if that protection is slowly destroying you. This is why motivation never lasts. Because motivation speaks to your conscious mind, the part of you that says, I want to change. But the shadow, the unconscious, has already made a different choice. I want to survive. And survival always wins, unless you learn how to confront it. Here's the cruelest part. Every time you fail, your shadow grows stronger, because it whispers, see? You can't do it. You'll always fall back. This is just who you are, and after enough failures, you start to believe it. You stop calling it procrastination and start calling it my personality. You stop calling it avoidance and start saying, that's just the way I am. This is how the shadow tricks you. It takes patterns of survival and convinces you they're permanent. It turns self-defense mechanisms into identity. And so, year after year, you keep reliving the same frustrations, mistaking them for fate. This is why so many people stay stuck forever. They don't realize they're fighting an invisible opponent. They think more willpower will solve it. They think another productivity hack, another morning routine, another motivational speech will finally push them through. But you can't out-discipline the unconscious. You can't outgrind a force that's older, deeper, and more powerful than your conscious will. This is why Jung insisted that true transformation isn't about forcing yourself into change. It's about integration, about making the unconscious conscious, about facing your shadow, not running from it. So here's the real problem. It isn't that you lack motivation. It isn't that you're lazy. It isn't that you're broken. The real problem is that you're fighting the wrong battle. You're trying to fix the surface, habits, routines, mindset, while ignoring the root, the shadow that resists every attempt to grow. And until you confront it, the cycle will repeat. No matter how much you want to change, something deeper will always drag you back. But here's the truth Jung left us with. The shadow isn't just your enemy. It's also the doorway. The very thing you fear to face is the thing that will set you free. And that's where we go next. By now, you've seen the hidden problem. You've traced the patterns. You've watched the cycle of inspiration, effort, resistance, and guilt unfold. Maybe even recognized it in your own life. Now it's time to do something different. Here's the truth that almost nobody tells you. You can't fight your shadow. You can't force it to vanish. You can't motivate it into submission, because it's part of you. The real power isn't in battling it. The power is in dialogue, awareness, and integration. This is Jung's map, the process for making the unconscious conscious, for turning the shadow from an obstacle into an ally. Step 1. Naming the shadow. The first step is radical self-honesty. You need to see the shadow for what it really is, a guardian of your comfort zone. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what am I really afraid will happen if I succeed? Maybe it's fear of failure. Maybe it's fear of judgment. Maybe it's fear of success, the responsibilities, the expectations, the changes success will bring. Whatever the answer, write it down. Name it. Acknowledge it. Don't judge it. The shadow loves secrecy. It thrives when you ignore it. When you name it, it loses some of its power. Example, let's say your shadow whispers, "Don't start that project. You might embarrass yourself." Naming it aloud, you might write, "My fear is being judged and rejected." Suddenly, it's no longer vague anxiety. It's a concrete force you can see, confront, and work with. Step 2. Small, consistent action. Next, choose one tiny action every day that moves you toward your goal. The key here is that the step must be too small for the shadow to resist completely. Don't aim to overhaul your life in one day. Don't promise yourself an impossible 90-day transformation. Instead, pick something simple. Write a single paragraph for that project. Send one email you've been avoiding. Take a 5-minute walk. It's the repetition of small, honest actions that begins to chip away at the shadow's grip. Because every time you act, even imperfectly, the shadow loses. Every tiny win reinforces the truth. You can move forward even with fear present. Step 3. Track your resistance. Awareness is critical. Every evening, spend 5 minutes reflecting. What did I do today? Where did I feel resistance? What did my shadow try to convince me not to do? Write it down, even if it's messy or uncomfortable. This is the process Jung called making the unconscious conscious. By tracking your resistance in real time, you begin to notice patterns. You see where your shadow operates, how it bargains, distracts, or sabotages. And when you see it, it loses its ability to control you unconsciously. Step 4. Speak your truth. The shadow thrives on secrecy and isolation. Jung emphasized that transformation happens not only within yourself, but in relationship. Share what you're learning with someone you trust, or even a supportive community. It could be as simple as telling a friend, "I tried to start this project today and it felt terrifying." Posting in a safe online space about the resistance you feel. Speaking your truth out loud does two things. It diminishes the shadow's power. It turns shame into connection. Suddenly, what once felt isolating and overwhelming becomes shared and understood. Step 5. Expect setbacks. Return. Anyway, transformation isn't linear. Some days the shadow will roar louder than ever. You might fail. You might procrastinate. You might give in. And that's okay. Jung believed that every return to action, no matter how small, weakens old patterns. Every time you try again, the shadow loses a little more power. Don't let shame or guilt dictate your next step. Start again. Keep the daily action going. Keep the reflection going. Keep the dialogue alive. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about quiet, consistent confrontation. At first, this process may feel uncomfortable. You may feel slower, unsure, or frustrated. But here's the paradox. Discomfort is the shadow's territory. The moment you move into it, you are growing. Integration is the real magic. By naming the shadow, taking small steps, tracking resistance, speaking truth, and returning after setbacks, you are no longer a slave to unconscious patterns. Instead, the shadow becomes a guide. It teaches you about hidden fears, unacknowledged desires, and unclaimed potential. It becomes a mirror, showing you what you need to see to grow. One of the most overlooked aspects of transformation is connection. Jung recognized that humans are social beings. Isolation strengthens the shadow, community weakens it. Share wins and struggles. Ask for accountability. Celebrate small steps together. This is how your ambition becomes real, not just a fantasy in your mind, but a living, breathing part of the world. Small steps, repeated daily, produce momentum. The secret most people miss is this. Progress doesn't come from giant leaps. It comes from the quiet accumulation of tiny, consistent actions. Every 5-minute step, every single paragraph, every honest conversation is like a brick in a foundation. And over time, that foundation grows strong enough to carry you past the shadow's resistance. Here's what you'll notice when this works. Old habits lose their grip. Resistance becomes predictable, manageable, even expected. Confidence no longer comes from hype or motivation. It comes from trust in yourself. This is how ambition transforms into real action. Not in bursts, not in hype, but in the steady, honest work of confronting your shadow every day. So here's the reward for staying with me so far. You now understand why laziness isn't real. You know how the shadow has been shaping your life. You have a practical, step-by-step method to confront it, integrate it, and turn resistance into real growth. The final step is to take it further. In the last part, we'll take all of this and show you exactly how to transform awareness into unstoppable momentum. The kind of momentum that turns small actions into life-changing results, day after day, no matter how strong your shadow was before. The breakthrough is coming, and it's waiting for you at the finish line. You've made it this far. You've faced the invisible cycles that have kept you stuck. You've seen the hidden hand of your shadow, the unconscious patterns that whispered doubt, fear, and avoidance into your mind. You've learned the real reason motivation and discipline alone never worked. And now, you know the path forward. But here's the truth. Insight alone isn't enough. Understanding the shadow is not transformation. Awareness is only the first step. Real change comes when insight becomes action, repeated consistently, with honesty, patience, and courage. Let's review the blueprint, your step-by-step process for turning resistance into growth. Name the shadow. Identify the fears, anxieties, and beliefs that your shadow is protecting. Write them down. Speak them aloud. The act of naming takes the power out of secrecy and begins to dissolve unconscious control. Take small, honest action. Pick one tiny step every day that moves you toward your goal. The step should be small enough that it feels manageable, but meaningful enough to matter. Action is the antidote to avoidance. Track your resistance. Every evening, reflect on your day. Note what resistance you faced, where your shadow showed up, and what you did anyway. Tracking reveals patterns and transforms unconscious habits into conscious knowledge. Share your truth. Speak honestly with someone you trust or a supportive community. Resistance thrives in secrecy. Sharing it dissolves its power and replaces shame with connection. Expect setbacks, return. Anyway, the shadow will fight. You will fail sometimes. Each return to honest action chips away at old patterns. Progress is not perfection, it's persistence. Repeat this process daily, slowly, consistently, with courage. And over time, you will notice a remarkable shift. Your shadow no longer controls you unconsciously. Instead, it becomes a guide, a mirror, and ultimately, an ally. This is where transformation happens, not in grand leaps, not in motivation surges, but in the quiet accumulation of small, consistent actions. Your ambitions that once felt out of reach now begin to take shape. Your energy is no longer drained by internal resistance. Confidence comes from self-trust, not external validation. Fear and discomfort become indicators, not obstacles. You're no longer a passenger in your life, tossed by circumstances and hidden forces. You are the navigator, consciously steering toward what matters. And here's the final, most powerful truth. Once you see your shadow, you can never go back to sleeping through life. Awareness changes everything. Even when you stumble, even when you procrastinate, even when doubt returns, you now understand it. You are awake. Transformation is a marathon, not a sprint. And the people who succeed are not the ones who act perfectly. They are the ones who keep returning, day after day, even in the face of resistance. Imagine 3 weeks from now. You've taken a small, honest action every day. You've tracked your resistance and named your shadow. You've shared your progress with someone you trust. You've faced setbacks and returned anyway. Notice what's different. Your confidence, your energy, your clarity. The shadow still exists, but it no longer dictates your choices. You are writing your own story rather than being written by unconscious patterns. This is the power of integration. This is the power of conscious action. This is the power of turning insight into momentum. Most people never make it this far. They watch a portion of a video, save a tip, wait for a magic moment, and continue the cycle. But you, if you've stayed with me to this point, you've proven something already. You want truth more than comfort. You want growth more than excuses. Carl Jung believed that those who dare to face themselves become rare, powerful, and unstoppable. They stop living someone else's script. They start writing their own. And the world needs more people like that. The world needs you awake, honest, moving forward. So here's your challenge. Start tonight. Sit quietly. Name your shadow. Take one small, deliberate action. Track it. Share it. Return if you fail. Do this consistently and watch what happens. You are not a victim of fate. You are not a prisoner of your habits. You are a conscious creator. This is more than a video. It is an invitation, a call to face the hidden forces that shape your life. It is a roadmap handed to you by Jung's wisdom for becoming the person you were always meant to be. Imagine living each day with clarity, self-trust, and momentum. Imagine a life where ambition and action are no longer at war, but aligned. Imagine looking back one day and realizing every small, honest step created a life beyond your dreams. That life is possible. The shadow is real, but so is your power. The only question is, will you take the first step today? If you want more insights like this, beyond hype, beyond motivation, rooted in real philosophy and psychology, subscribe, join the community, and commit to the work. Your transformation is waiting. Your new story begins now. And remember, it's not about perfection. It's about courage, honesty, and the persistent choice to move forward. Your shadow is part of you. Your ambition is part of you. And the person you've always wanted to be is waiting to emerge.